I didn't know anyone could actually carve this kind of... But how did we get here? Very briefly, before we hear from the listeners. Okay. How did we get here?
We got here in 1948. We had only 5 million people. But because we do have a very high unmet need for family planning at 41%, if you add it with the current contraceptive prevalence rate of 24%, you get 65% of the population doing family planning, spacing their children. But it's only happening at 25%, 41% are not, so they are continuing to produce. Now, we do have a problem that in the city here, women are producing 3 kids because of what we call economic contraceptives. Someone has to consider their job. Someone has to consider that, they have to work, so they kind of space themselves. They are forced to space. But people who live in the village,
there's no such thing.
And 2, people who live in the village don't have electricity.
You
enter the house at 6 o'clock.
As the sun goes down, you begin to look
at those struts.
You count the rafters.
And the next thing, once the sun is completely gone down, what are you going to be doing in bed?
You get busy.
So you get busy, and the next thing we see,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about work. Today I was thinking it's very difficult to find a woman security guard who's actually pregnant. So when you're working, it's difficult to. You have to balance that. Let's talk about.
Just emphasize one thing.
I've never seen a pregnant security guard.
That with the rising population, you've got increased urbanization.
A woman with a gun over her shoulder and she's pregnant. I've not seen that. And
the point I was making is not about the guard, but rather that with increasing population, you have a high rate of people coming to urban areas, to live in urban areas. And then that has its own associated problems. If you have issues of unemployment, you have issues of riots.
Get crime as
well. People who actually demonstrate or participate in riots in this country,
they want change.
Are the people who actually come from the village to town and they want change because there are no services for them.
And I think they cannot have the kind of change they are looking for or the kind of change they are aspiring to because they do not have a skill that they can sell in exchange for that. So we are encouraging skills. A person should have skills. If you have no skills, at least go and dig. You don't need much skills to dig. But even people in the villages are selling their plots to buy boda to come to town and do boda business.
And look at the lights in the city. We're going to hear from you listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I mentioned that already. Tonight our topic, Uganda's population explosion, is it sustainable? The president supports it. He says we need a big market. So we should produce more children. We produce most children, a third largest number of children in the world. In Africa, I think we rival with Senegal, which is a very rich country. Niger, very poor country. We have an average woman gets 7.2 children in her lifetime. You can tell us your name and where you're calling from. How's you calling? Spectrum, hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, madam.
Yeah, my name is Kevin. I'm calling from Kampala. Yes?
Yes, madam, you please go.
Yes. I just wanted to thank the gentlemen for their presentation. I'm a doctor by profession, and I really appreciate the way they've analyzed and articulated the issues. But I have 2 points. One is the fact that, they come from a technical sector, and we know what the highest authority in this country think about the population, or population growth for that matter. I may understand that, but how does the ordinary Ugandan, an aunt of mine seated somewhere in the village, understand that? For them, they will say, government is giving 2 messages. One government says it's okay, another government body is giving a different information. How do we package this information for the people, for the ordinary person to understand? Of course, I'm saying an auntie of mine who probably for me will have a privilege that I'll be able to try and explain some of these issues. But not everybody has somebody who they can access and explain this. So that is one of my concerns and questions, and I would really like to seek clarification. But I thank them for their information because it helps some of us also in that sector. It's not really, some of us work in the humanitarian world, but we are able to at least get those points and use them and present it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir?
Good evening. Thanks very much, Edmond.
Your name, sir?
Great show, great statistics, and they're very factual.
Can we know your name, please?
I'm called Geoffrey.
Geoffrey, go on.
Edmond, I want to raise my issue with the NGO sector. I want I'd like the presenters that is it OPSEC, take an example here in FPA, even USAID, they sunk a lot of money into reproductive health. And what have been the outcomes? They're talking of...
Oh, we seem to have lost you there. Jeffrey Spectrum, hello?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted them quickly to comment on one item which normally confuses them, this population thing. Ugandans by right are very religious. In fact, there are some who are more religious than God. And when you read the Bible, it says, well, go and produce and, fill the world. So what is the comment of the people in the studio, since some of them are really Christian? Because it has been confusing people. And if you tell them, some of them are traditional, and by prestige, a man who produced more children was more proud and respected in society. And as you can see, we still have traditional kingdoms and other things. And then lastly, the contradiction between leaders. Others are saying population is good, others are saying limit. So what do we do?
All right, Mr. Simon. Spectrum, hello?
Good evening, Spectrum.
Good evening, sir. Your name?
I don't think of a mouse money. I sent you this evening. First of all, I must thank the guests in the studio for their wonderful explanation. You have really done enough research, and I really thank you for your wonderful guidance. However, I'm one of those few who encourage Ugandans to produce more children. We must also, yes, we are talking to get rid of that fear that the population will be high. Uganda is still very big, it is still very rugged. China has the highest population in the world, and it is the fastest growing country in the world at the same time. So they can't grow, and they start working very hard for development for our children. We should encourage Ugandans to produce more children.
Did you say you're a doctor? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, it's another caller. Your name? Our final caller.
Paul Bugembe,
Yes.
calling from Uganda.
Can you switch off your radio, walk away from it?
Okay, Mr. Edmond. Is it okay now?
Yes, better.
My view on population, Edmond, is that we shouldn't look at population in terms of numbers. We should look at it in terms of the quality of the population. Uganda's population is still small at 30-something. You can see China has a billion population. You can see Nigeria, Egypt. You can see America, but they are doing well. I think what we need to look at is to see that our people are educated, our people are empowered economically. Secondly, we tell people to produce the children they can be able to look after. But looking at the number that is very big, that's not a factor. If we don't fill our country, foreigners will fill the country. Thank you.
Mr. Mbuga, go forth and fill the world. How do you balance this?
Well, I happen to be a pastor also.
Yes, I know you're a pastor, Pentecostal pastor.
Yeah, I'm a Pentecostal pastor, and I like it. But I've read the Bible. In fact, I've produced a paper which I presented 2 weeks ago on the church and reproductive health stroke contraception. I have looked in the Bible and actually discovered God told only two sets of people to produce. Number one, God told Adam.
Yes.
So if your name is Adam and you have no other name, God told you to go forth and multiply.
No.
If you have two names, God didn't tell you. Two, he told Noah. If your name is Noah and you have only one name, then God meant you. But as far as we are concerned, he said, go and multiply. But again, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verse 28, the Bible tells us that before you build a tower, you must sit down and count the cost.
So, cost index.
Yeah, you count the cost, you look at your income and decide whether you can support the number of children you have to whatever. So, that aside. The other thing, somebody said, oh, there is too much land. Uganda is virgin. I just want you to get a hoe and go anywhere you think it's virgin land. Yeah, and get a hoe and just begin to dig.
Right.
And see if you won't see, if you will see.
Or build a chain to fence it.
Just build a hut, and you see if you stay alive.
Or touch somebody's mangoes.
Or just go and climb a mango tree or whatever. So it's not that we are saying people shouldn't produce. It's not that we are saying that, we are too stretched. But I want you to know that the same number of people who lived in 1948 were 5 million.
Yeah.
As we speak now, the same land of Uganda has not increased. We have issues in Mijingo, just here in Mijingo.
A rocky island.
Yeah, a rocky island with nothing that can grow on it. We almost went to war with Kenya over that. So as people increase, the pressure on land has what?
Does not
increase. And also there is going to be, the next battle in Africa is not going to be a battle of other things. It's going to be a battle of natural resources, especially water.
Yes.
We have Egypt right now wanting to dictate what we do around the lake. It is doing that because its entire life depends on this river, and this river is people are living around it, and human pressure put it. Lastly, there is Mr. Singh talked about the contradiction. Our job, and that's the same thing Dr. Kevin talked about.
Leaders.
Yeah. The contradiction is we are looking at this thing from two perspectives. But now for us, we are taking a stand. Okay, if you want to have people